Hi, everyone. I thought I'd drop in today to talk a little bit about what's been going on with the Bureau of Labor Statistics, better known as the BLS, and why its work is so critical to site selection and economic development. I'm Didi Caldwell, the Factory Whisperer. This is where location strategy meets opportunity, so let's dig in. On Friday, the BLS released its July jobs report, and the numbers were, well, underwhelming. Job growth came in much weaker than expected, with only 73,000 jobs added. Even more concerning, the BLS revised the previous 2 months downward by a combined 258,000 jobs, the largest 2-month revision since the early days of the COVID crisis. Now, this kind of revision is not unusual. The BLS collects data from thousands of employers on a monthly basis, and not all of them report in time for the initial release. As more data comes in, the numbers get updated, which is to say better. That's how statistics work. But this time, the reaction was anything but routine. As you've probably heard, President Trump responded by firing BLS Commissioner Erica McIntyre, accusing her of manipulating the data for political purposes and calling the report rigged. He said, quote, "Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes." And to that I say, yes, Mr. President, we definitely agree. But accuracy comes from independence, not interference. This move sent shockwaves through the site selection community and beyond. Investors, manufacturers, retailers, logistics firms, and policymakers all rely on BLS data to make informed decisions. Undermining the credibility of this institution threatens the very foundation of our economic planning. So why is BLS data so important for site selection? Well, the BLS doesn't just count jobs. It provides granular county-level data on employment by industry, occupation, wage rates, and more. This is the backbone of our workforce analysis. For example, if a client needs, let's say, 50 welders, we look for a location that ideally has a 50-to-1 ratio, meaning at least 2,500 welders within a reasonable commute time. That's how we ensure our clients can hire the talent that they need without inflating wages or draining the labor pool. At Global Location Strategies, we use a platform called JobsEQ that analyzes BLS data and translates it for us into actionable insights. The U.S. is and always has been the gold standard in labor data, comprehensive, consistent, and relatively unbiased. That's not something we can say about every country and not something we should take for granted. In smaller nations or in federations like the European Union, data collection varies by country, making apples-to-apples comparisons difficult. In autocratic regimes, say like in Russia or China, labor data is often manipulated or simply withheld because it reveals uncomfortable truths about the economy. And that brings us back to Friday. Trump's decision to fire the head of the BLS over a disappointing report highlights a troubling contradiction. On the one hand, he wants a strong economy to bolster his image. On the other, he's hoping for a weak economy so the Fed will cut interest rates. You simply can't have it both ways. The only way forward is to let the civil servants who are doing the meticulous job of collecting data on a continual basis report exactly what they find, regardless of the people in Washington, whether they like it or not. This is not just political theater, it's a threat to the integrity of our data. And if we lose trust in the numbers, we lose the ability to make smart decisions. For site selectors, investors, and economic developers, that's not just inconvenient, it's dangerous. So let's be clear. We need accurate, independent data to guide our strategies and build resilient communities and companies. The BLS may not be flashy, but it's foundational. When the integrity of our data is compromised, everyone from site selectors to investors to policymakers loses the ability to make informed decisions. So let's protect the institutions that protect our insight. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Didi Caldwell, the Factory Whisperer, and I'll be back soon with more insights on how location strategy shapes the future.